Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We will start our class with our dua. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في كل لحظة أبدا على نعم الله وأفضاله. اللهم آتنا من لدنك رحمة وعلمنا من لدنك علما. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نوينا تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم ألهمنا علما نفقه به أوامرك ونواهيك وارزقنا فهما نعرف به كيف نناجيك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم إنا نستودعك ما قرأناه وما نقرأه في هذا المجلس وما قبله وما بعده فاحفظه علينا حتى ترده إلينا وقت احتياجنا إليه يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا حكمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم يا من مقاليد الأمور كلها بيده وإليه يرجع الأمر كله يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم افتح علينا فتحا قريبا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وسد لساني واهدي قلبي وافعل كذلك بأحبابي أبدا. وارزقنا كمال فتوح العارفين والفقه في الدين مع كمال الإخلاص والصدق واليقين والعافية والغنى والنصر والحفظ والنفع والانتفاع وخير الدارين وعلوم الأولين والآخرين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. Alhamdulillah, 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 Alhamdulillah. So on our second class, Alhamdulillah, I saw it. I will just complete chapter one first. Last week I didn't complete chapter one. I stopped short of the part on discharge, right? And if you have seen that, I made a Padlet, right? So a Padlet where we can organize questions, right, according to topic. So because last week I realized, and Okay, Bismillah, Bismillah. I got in through another account, sorry. Because yeah, Alhamdulillah. Okay, Bismillah. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're going to continue with our class from okay, tamam. Okay, we're going to be, yeah, in through the result account. Right, so we're going to be our class. So last week, so what I mentioned was that the whole point of this class is to get people to be confident to answer your own questions. All right. So last week I made the mistake of answering all the questions. I forgot I was supposed to answer. So then we're answering everything. So now I'm more focused. I'm not supposed to answer the questions. I'm supposed to get people to answer, and I'll just verify. Right? My job is to verify the answers. So that's how you train people, right? So I'm not supposed to answer all the questions, right? So and also questions are to be posted on Padlet, right? So let me just escape from this, and then Allah, so like if you look at Padlet right here, right? So I made a Padlet, right? So those who are online, you can see, right? So I organized the Padlet into chapters, right? So if I see a question that is too early, right, in the sense it's coming. The topic is coming. I'm going to push the question to a little topic. So when we cover the topic, then you can answer your own question. Okay, right. But I also have a knack for answering questions on menses. So you see, I answer all the questions. Just sit there and answer all the questions. So I need to stop doing that, subhanallah. But never mind, for chapter one, I'll keep answering the questions. But I'll go through. I will go through. Okay. So I'll just before we begin, Allah Muhammad. Now, let me just go back to the other slide. Okay, here. So let me just do like the overview of what we did last week, right? On basically to identify, right? To identify the different bloods, right? This was meaning what we did last week, right? So there are three types of bloods, right? The summary of the chapter here, right? Okay, all right, summary of chapter one. There are three types of bloods, right? So, and you have the normal and the menses one, which is normal and periodic, and it's from health. Then you have nifas that is specific to pregnancies, and we spoke about two things about this, that it must be a confirmed pregnancy, and the only way in Islam to confirm that it was a pregnancy, right, is that if there was a you see a miscarriage, right, is to actually look at the clot, right, and to see is this a human form, if it was originally human, right? So in Islam, checking it by hormones doesn't count, right? It doesn't count, right? And when I used to learn it, I was wondering, why doesn't it count? I know if you take by your urine or by your blood, why doesn't it count? Because there is a possibility of people who are not pregnant also producing those hormones, right? I can't remember what it's called, the name of this thing, whereby the egg that's fertilized did not actually implant into the womb, and the womb throws it out, right? But the body, yeah, and the body begins to produce a placenta, a sac, amniotic sac, right? So when the body producing that sac, the body begins to produce hormones and everything. So she will just have all the symptoms of being pregnant, but there is no fetus. There's actually no human being inside. But the body will detect this before 2 months, and so which is why, mashallah, the scholars say minimum 2 months. They have done the research, right? So minimum 2 months to have a confirmed pregnancy. Right? And usually any, like they call it sukut, right? Any miscarriage can only be determined if it's human form, if it's older than 2 months. If it's less than 2 months, even if it was human, you can't actually tell. Right? Is this human, or is it just a clot, or is this a sac, or is it without a human being inside, or a placenta, whatsoever? You can't actually tell. Right? So it's a minimum of 2 months before you can actually tell. So it's not really 2 months, but it's more of, can you tell it's human? And who is one who will tell if it's human? Somebody of khibra. Right? Khibra meaning someone of experience. So someone experience tells you this human, right, in its origin. Right? So okay, the blood that comes after that, nifas. After, right, after the emptying of the womb, right, not before the emptying of the womb. Mom used to tell me that they just think that whenever when they were young, they were having their babies and everything, right, and she said that so many of her and her cousins will think that if you just see blood, you stop praying. And I said, no, 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 don't do that. You gotta make sure is it menses or nifas, right? If it's istihadah, khalas, you have to continue praying. And we spoke about istihadah, also types of blood, right? So today we're going to go into discharge, but just to make things firm, I'm going to go into the questions here. Okay, right. Just go to chapter 1, just the first column of questions, so you all can see. You can even open up on your own side if it's not clear for you, right? So I won't be looking at the chat for questions at all. Okay, if you want me to answer, I won't answer questions. But if you want me to see your questions, put the Padlet. Right, it's easy to use. So the first question is, what type of blood, if it comes out during a confirmed pregnancy? So if it's during the pregnancy, so that means, so I put it in first, trying to get people to answer the question, okay? So the discharge of nifas is blood that comes out after the human form has exited the womb and is empty of human forms. So which means during the pregnancy, so nifas is out. It cannot be nifas, right? So by definition, it cannot be nifas, right? So if it's before the human being has exited, right, then it can be istihadah. There is a possibility of it being menses, which I will speak about later, right? So blood before the human form comes out, right, it can be, usually it's istihadah, right, unless it fulfills the conditions of menses, right? Then it becomes menses, and menses is periodic, right? It's more than 24 hours of flow, right? So there's a periodic to it, right? And we will speak about it later. For most women, I know of women who do go through menstruation. My husband's auntie, she didn't know she was pregnant, because she was having normal menstruation right through her pregnancy. You too, normal pregnancy menstruation. MashaAllah. Right. So you have no clue you're pregnant because you're just, menstruating all the way through. Right. So it's periodic. It happens exactly like menses, but you're actually pregnant. MashaAllah. And we'll speak about it later a bit. Okay, so which is why I put this, you're going to decide, right? If it's periodic, right? And it's more than 24 hours of flow, right? Then it falls under menstruation. Right. But otherwise, for most women, what they're experiencing is istihadah. Especially if it's like, like brown discharge every bit here and there, like it drags, kind of thing. So high chances those are istihadah. Right, so you got to go to the sifat, to the traits of the blood. Then you can give yourself a hukum, give yourself a ruling. And so once you give a ruling, you decide that from the ruling, do you pray or do you not pray? Right, istihadah, khalas, you continue praying. It is najasa, it's najis, you istinja, and you continue praying, as it is. For menses, you still have yellow discharge. If you still have yellow discharge in the morning with lines of blood, okay, this is the color of menses. We will be going through this today later. Okay, colors and attributes of menses, put it here. Okay, all right. For ectopic pregnancies, less than 1 month, will the bleeding be counted as nifas? Right, the answer is no. Right, so even though you say, it was confirmed by a doctor whatsoever, right, if it's within 1 month, the fuqaha will say no, right, because or the scholars will say no, because you can't actually tell, right? So the human form cannot be physically identified, right? So even if it's by scanning, even if it's by hormones, right, it's not counted, right, in the fiqh, because many things can imitate it. It's only physically you look at the thing and you let's say it's human. So if you ask doctors, they themselves they say it's what the signs point to, that there's a pregnancy, right? But you can't be completely sure before 2 months, right? That it is actually human, right? So the ruling of the blood, right, is the ruling of menses or istihadah, right? But not nifas, right? So the expulsion of their blood. So if it fulfills the conditions of menses, then halas, it is menses, right? If it does not fulfill the conditions of menses, then it is istihadah, right? So basic condition will be there has to have had 15 days of being clean prior to the blood coming out, right? And then there should have been a 24-hour flow, right? Which probably would haven't, right? For someone who is miscarrying in this, about 1 month, a 1 month old pregnancy, it will take the ruling of menses, right? So you start bleeding during miscarriage. What type of blood do we consider since the ultimate womb is not emptied yet? Okay, what blood is this? You want to ask your own question. What blood is this? All right, so the question is here. Yeah. You can't see, right? Okay. What? So the moment you start to bleed during a miscarriage, but the person, but the baby is not out yet. So during a miscarriage, istihadah, yes, of menstruation, yes, it falls under istihadah. You have to still istinja and clear it up and pray. Still have to. Even though I'm going through miscarriage, but the baby's still there inside. So you still have to, you give the ruling of istihadah, because if it's happening one time, it's not periodic as well. So it does not fall under menstruation. Right? So yes, you perform the prayer even though you are bleeding and the womb is not empty. The answer is that it is istihadah. Right? Right, so the question here is, why can't we consider the discharge as menses? Right, because it does not fulfill the conditions of menses. Right, yeah, so because it's not periodic, it doesn't have the traits of menses. Right, it has to be the traits of menses before you can count it as menses. Okay, that last one. If one bleeds for a maximum of 15 days, this is good, right? So at least you are okay to practice. Okay, if one bleeds for the 15 days, because when it comes to fiqh, all this theory, if you're not going to go into practice, how are you going to apply your knowledge? Right? This for maximum of 15 days during a more than 2 months old pregnancy. Is it haid or istihadah? Okay, so I know also more about this bleeding. So if this bleeding is heavy, that's actually quite dangerous for 15 days to be pregnant and heavily bleeding for 15 days. If it's a light, like brown discharge, spotting that's going through the pregnancy, then that high chances that actually does not cover up to 24 hours. High chances. There's not, because what makes menses cover 24 hours is that flow. Now, you know that the first 2 days you might like starting your engine, right? Like, they could be like small, 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 then boom, then the menses comes, right? And that's the part whereby the 24 hours is attained, right? But for pregnancy, like if you're just letting out a bit of blood here and there over 15 days, if you count it all up, if it's istihadah, it will not fit the 24 hours, right? During my period, I stopped. So I was overwhelmed. Your body still goes through the process of menstruation, but it covered 24 hours of flow. Uh, yeah, yes, it's hard. If it's because this is the genius of our scholars. Inshallah, they put this. I was why this 24 hours thing, and the ruling is 24 hours over the 15 days, and you're wondering what? Subhanallah, why is that so? These issues. All this thing and this, istihadah and stuff like that. Like, so you rule it as it's not menses, because you're not having the full 24-hour flow, right? Over the 15 days. So this one I mentioned it. I will go again through it in chapter 7, right? So basically, my answer that I put here, the principles I put down. She is pregnant, right? There's continuous bleeding, right? It is not normal. One thing, it is not normal for to have continuous bleeding while you are pregnant. If it's full blood bleeding, it is dangerous, right? You have to have checked. Right, she must observe the bloods. I say observe the bloods, compared to the previous menses to know if it's haid or istihadah. And I will go through this when we speak about istihadah in pregnancy. Right, chapter 7. Right. Okay, someone here says, I'm 45 years old. My menses now, right, ends on day 5 and 6 instead of day 8. It's good. Right. I mean, it's good. The shorter it gets, the better it gets. I sujud syukur when my menses ends before 15 days. Syukur, Alhamdulillah, mashallah. By day 6, usually discharge is clear and you bathe, right, and start to pray. Okay, then the next day there's a very faint pinkish discharge. Is this menses blood? This was actually today's lesson at the class attributes of menses, right? The answer is yes, right? You are in menses. Right? The answer is you are in menses. Why? Right? So if someone else answers the question for me, if it's correct, I'll put the word correct. Okay, so if someone else answers, I'll just affirm or correct it. Right? This menses, yes. Why? Within 15 of the colors of menses. Right? So it's connected to the first menses. Today's lesson has a lot of case scenarios. right? Because in the book, the one thing that I love about this book is that it's full of case, scenario. So if you saw the there is all different scenario, and more scenarios. There's scenario here, scenario. Right. So the quiz for this chapter will be all scenarios. I'll just be giving a lot of scenarios. Because basically, you can everything's theory, right? Apply your knowledge and be confident. Okay, so the first question, okay, this is a good question. The blood that comes out after the first sexual intercourse, is that istihaba, right? So okay, actually that's not full. It basically has to fulfill the condition of menses if it is menses. All right. So I would say check is when was your previous menses, right? So if lapse right, from the end of the previous, then of course now you are on cleanliness, and you have it is will be right. It comes out after the first intercourse. It's a bit, it's a lot. But if you just finish your menses, right, and then there was intercourse, right, a bit of blood came out, that will be connected to the previous menses, because it's within the 50s. You connect it right to the previous menses. So it really depends when was your previous menses, right? So usually it's istihaba because there is no flow in 24 hours, but you must check, right? Does it connect to the 15 days of menses, right? So, okay. Let's see, two more questions there. Of course, I hope you all can see it's important questions, right? So that for us to encompass the knowledge. It's fun. Right? I find it fun. If there, am I the only one gets out of this? If I get out of it, when you answer, you're like, yes, I got the answer right. MashaAllah. If there is a regular dark colored spotting 2 days before my normal menses, is it considered as part of mens? Oh, I can hear bigger. Okay. I just figured this out. Alhamdulillah. Is it considered as part of menses? Should the cycle be counted when the dark colored spotting starts, or when normal comes out? Yes. First thing you gotta check, right? Have you had your 15 days of clean? If you ever had your 15 days of clean, then it's part of your menses. Especially if you're telling me 2 days before your normal menses. Probably menses. Yeah, it's probably menses. Right? You don't have to wait for blood. And this is a common misconception amongst many women. They think that they have to wait for the blood to come when they're in menses. And I think last week someone asked, if not discussed, but another fiqh class I had, she asked if her entire life she never knew that the brown that comes after menses, towards the end of menses, was actually menses, and she would bathe. So when she saw the and have the brown discharge. Allah. And then I said, Allah, Allah. So then her entire life, since puberty, none of her prayers are counted because she's doing the bath, she's not clean. So when she does get clean, there was no bath. It's the thing about learning a fardu'ain. Learn your fardu'ain. I say don't make mistakes. Yeah, and I hope you saw the on the Google Drive where I put for this one, the where is it? I put up for young girls, right? So if you look to the drive, you will find this where is it? Where is it? Oh, coming of age. Coming of age booklet, right? So it's basically a full course from every aspect for young girls coming into menses. Right? So from the tasawwuf side, from your modesty, accountability, also personal hygiene, right? Things that will happen to your body, right? And so on and so forth. And also the laws of menses, right? About girls coming of age. Right? I have brought one of the booklets to Tari Melepas to Anissa. If you want to see it, because the girls are 9, right? So I passed it to her. It's the same book for the princess. Yes, yes, and you can see like the how it's as small as the read Latif booklets. It's like that. Mashallah. So and those of you who have girls, mashallah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Inshallah. Yes. Let's take it, mashallah. Um, yes, yes, yeah. So, now, right, so is someone answered, right? Before actual menses, so she said that in the start of menses, but must have completed 15 days, right? So I said correct. Okay, so you can actually answer if you think that you don't answer and you like doing these kind of things. Okay, so I just said the first to check this, right? If you have had these menses. Okay, first time blood discharge, 48 years old. Scenario is menses for the past few months. Okay. My period arrival in January. Few days before that date, you have blood discharge. Only one time. Then it goes clear. Complete means it's like it's just dry. Then 10, 11, your full period. After 3 months of this issue, you will bathe after the first 24 hours of the blood discharge. Are you correct? Is she correct or not? It's still within the 15 days. Yeah. It depends on how long her head cycle now goes. Yeah. So, first thing to check is always when did your previous menses end. So this happened before that flow. So this is the first question. Have you had your 15 off clean? If you have, right, if you had that, then the bloody discharge is menses. And if right now you have your habit and you know this happens, you see bloody discharge, then for 24 hours, nothing. Then the main issue will come. If it has been your ada, meaning your habit, then don't bathe after the first discharge. Don't bathe. Don't take it as you're clean right now, right? Because your experience, blood's coming. So and in fact, many women experience this from the age of 35. Yeah. It's like okay, host again, Amila. Yeah, this time I just keep myself connected to this. Okay, so imagine. Basically, it is don't bathe if you know the mens is coming. Okay, question: what if you didn't bathe and because she's 48, right? And it's possible you might go through menopause. It's possible, right? So what if you like okay, my norm is that the blood comes, right? So you saw the first body discharge, you're like okay, the blood will come, and you don't bathe. Then you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait, and then 3 days go by, you're like, where's the blood? Start coming. Then you realize you menopaused. It's possible, right? So all you have to do, right, is do your ghusl and qada. It's not menopause. Oh, no, 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 you don't have to. Actually, you don't have to. Yeah, I don't have to make it ghusl, because it is not menses. It was just like a daf'ah. Right? It was like a point of discharge. It's not menses. There's no ghusl, correct? There's no ghusl. Just qada all the prayers that you missed, right? From the point you saw the blood. When you saw the blood, oh, you're bleeding, yes, but it was actually not menses. Right? But it was an istihada in menopause. Okay. So it's a million secondary and that clean for 3, 5, 7. But so there's actually even 6 So that means that will be. What is it? So that people said this hand still complex. Yes, yes. And then we're going to that today, inshallah. Just listen, eh? Okay, okay, in Islam, how do we start counting the length of pregnancy? Is it on the first day of your last period? Okay, in Islam, when I asked about this question in Islam, basically they count it from after your period ends, right? About 2 weeks after. So if for pregnancy, you have to give a gauge about it. So it's really not exactly 2 months. What you're looking at is human form. That's the ibrah. I used to look at human form. So it's not the scholars say 2 months roughly. Roughly. Right? So you can't actually tell exactly. Why is my screen not loading? Stop check. Alhamdulillah. Okay, tamam. Yeah. So after your period, right? So it depends. So a woman lost a baby at 10 weeks. Okay, so 10 weeks is more than 2 months. And high chances you can see the human form. High chances. Right? Even as someone of non-experience, you'll be able to see human form at 10 weeks. Right? So yes, the blood after the baby comes out is nifas. Correct. You put that correct. Yes. Okay. Okay, almost last question. I'm a person who usually has discharge on a daily basis, yellow, and then how do I know if my menses has ended? From what I understand, there must be no discharge or white discharge. To know it's ended, but I see white discharge. Does it mean that it's ended or it's menses? I will answer that. We will go through that today. Right? I will not answer, but we'll go through today, and you will see what is the answer. Right. So this one is actually today's assignment split there. Right. So big. I don't know what I'm doing. That's okay. Okay. Go down. Down. Okay, tamam. Let's see. Okay, I'll answer that later on. What does it mean by 24 hours flow? I have brown red spotting at 8 a.m. There'll be no blood until the next day, and the same thing until a few days later, there's an actual flow. So I would say confirm you had your 24 hours. I had 24 hours all together. Is the menses? Yes. Answer is yes. Right? And of course, with the condition of 15 days of purity. With that condition, then it is menses tamam. Okay, so we're gonna go to what here, right, to this lesson, right? And last week I did not go through the discharge part. Went through istihadah, right? And we're here today. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's continue. So I will not be looking at the chat in at all, right? Maybe later when I have free time I'll look at the chat. Right, but I will just on focus on the class. Okay. So any questions, put it under today's chapter on Padlet, right? On Padlet. Okay, discharge from the womb. Right? Besides the bloods that exit the womb, right, there are fluids called moisture of the privates or discharge, right? So in Arabic, they say rutubatil farj, or they will say ifrazat, right? These are all part of the Arabic words that's used, right? These are white or colorless fluids that are between madhi and sweat, right? So when they say between madhi and sweat, meaning the rulings go between madhi and sweat, and the characteristics go between madhi and sweat. So basically, madhi is the extent of it. Madhi is basically arousal fluid, right? It comes during arousal. It comes during ovulation. So it's basically a lubricant. Madhi is a lubricant to allow for intercourse. Right? Something naturally Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has given women, right, to protect them, right, as a lubricant, so they don't hurt, right, during intercourse. And then sweat is sweat, basically. Right? So there is another fluid that comes and it feels like sweat. It's not sweat, it feels like sweat usually. It is also to keep us healthy and not in pain, right? Because if our privates dry up, right, when you just by walking, right, it could hurt you, right? So, by Allah's mercy, that He has given us this fluid. So it's Alhamdulillah on discharge. Okay, and then like, discharge. Alhamdulillah on discharge. Allah give us discharge. And the laws of discharge. So the question. So two questions come forward from this. Are these fluids najis or are they pure? Right? And second question, do these fluids nullify wudu or do they not? Right? Very clear answer from the book that we're doing, Ibanah or Ifadah. Like if it comes from the outer regions of the privates, and now we're going to have to be clear what are the outer regions and what are the inner. Yeah. Where is the outer region? MashaAllah, they know our bodies very well. Like, where's the outer region? And if it comes from the outer region of the privates, then it is not najis and does not nullify wudu. It has the ruling of sweat. right? But if it comes from the uh, right? So if it comes from the inner parts of the privates, right, or the womb, right? If you draw a diagram, and I showed this during for the girls, when I taught the girls, I went a bit of biology, right? So you know how your womb is like, right? So for women, you have a womb that is like an inverted triangle, right? The womb is like an inverted triangle. Then there is entire like a tunnel, like a passage, right? So that is where if someone were to use a tampon, that's where they'll put it in. If you use a menstrual cup, that's where you put it in. You fit it in there, right? So this part has glands at the very end of it, right, to the outside world, right? And this part where it connects it to the womb, right? That is where you it is the you see the inner side. Right? Get this thing out here because it was in the girls the common age. Okay, I'll just show it from here. Right. So lastly, someone asked about what do I do when I have cramps and stuff like that. You can always do Salawat Shifa, right? Salawat Shifa is something that we do. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina tibbil qulubi wa dawaiha. This is Salawat. And Okay, but just want to show this part, right? Where when we speak about the discharge, right? So discharge that is najis, right, comes from this area, either from inside the womb or from this area here, the gland there, right? So it's on the inside, right, or from inside the womb, right? That's where the najis discharge comes from, and there are specific traits for it, right? Because it comes from inside, and they usually come for reasons, right? Why they come, right? The discharge that is non-najis and does not break your wudu, it comes at the bottom of the of the canal. It's basically a canal, right? So the bottom of the canal where the outside world comes, right? So it comes at that part, right? Because that discharge, its purpose, because when you go into some biology, it becomes clearer, right, what all these fluids are about. So that part, its purpose is basically to have a woman not hurt, right, when she moves, when she walks, and so on, right, so that it is moist. It's moist and it's easy, right, for her to move around. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the discharge this thing, right? Yeah. So when we speak about the discharge, right? Right. So on the outer regions, right, not najis, it's not nullified wudu. On the inner regions, inner parts, najis and nullified, right? And how are we going to tell the difference? Okay, tamam. Okay. So here, so on the outer parts, right? So outer parts is what is compulsory to wash during when you're doing istinja, right? And the compulsory bath. This part gets exposed when you squat. Right, so when you squat, right, you're like, where? You see Rafika's your face, where? You know, mashallah. Basically, if you were to get like a tissue and you swipe, the moisture that you see that is from those glands, right? So when you do istinja, right, basically you bring your finger in about this amount. That's counted as zahir al-farj, right? So when you istinja, you should be putting your finger in and pulling out the discharge, right? Washing there, right? Because there could be najis there, right? So when you istinja, right, there has to be a bit of a digging, right, into just wash the entire, right? Wajib, right? And also with regards to the major bath, right? Because that part becomes exposed when you actually squat. It can open up, right? So that is the outer parts, all right? So of its traits, right? Its traits is that because it's meant as a moisture, right? Is no color or white. It's possible it's white. There's a difference between no color and white. Okay, colorless and white are different things. Right? White is white, and transparent is transparent, right? There is a slight smell, right? So is it like a normal discharge, slight smell? Because the other discharge has a very pungent odor, and you need to be observant on your discharge. Right? Yeah, mashallah. When I began learning this with Baba, right, at first you're like, how, what? But after a while, you get it, right? Because you become more aware that there are actually different smells for different discharges, right? So the one that's normal has a normal smell that even like when you on your pants, right? This is to be very, very frank or crude or whatever. But when you put on your pants, even if you have no discharge, if you were to smell that area, there's a smell. All right, that's this discharge. It is the continuous fume that's coming out. It's light. It's light. So some you wonder, like, how come, like, I didn't have any discharge today? And then there's a smell there, so it's from that. It's from that. It's very slight. But it's a smell nonetheless. Not najis. You've been taking wudu 24/7, right? And mashallah. There was once one of my friends, she went to the masjid and there was an old lady there doing wudu at the masjid. And the old lady said in Malay, she was, pray 5 times a day, wudu 10 times a day. So our lives. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. You can reward it, mashallah. Yes, okay, in curdles, good question. So small amount in curdles. So like how you would describe it, right, would be that it has a, like, how I would say jaram, like a jaram, right, which basically means it can have like a body. So you can pick it up. You can actually pick it up. He has a gem, right? So he has like, like if you know of those kind of white glues, those kind of like hardened glues, right? So when you break it apart like that, how Hababa would explain it would be like uncooked chicken fat. When the chicken fat there's a white stuff. Yeah, that one. Yeah, it's like that. Macam it's a paranoid. But you need to cut off the paranoia because waswasa. Now waswasa can push people into yes meaning like a despair, right? And it's just yeah. So you have yes. Yes, correct. Yes, 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 correct. It is from the inner lubricant one. And you can speak about it as well. As curdles, like sometimes impulse is because quite some time, right? Then it came out. So you see on your liner, curdle. There's nothing, fishy, nothing there. Nothing there. There's nothing. Yeah, not even your pain. And you might be able to feel it, right? But you usually don't feel it falling out. It comes up by itself. You don't feel that's which is why the ruling is if you don't feel it, you need to check it. If you look into the rank, see that's al-asl, right? What is original Farah. That is your yaqeen. Your certainty is thought. You did istinja, you did your wudu, yaqeen. You are on your certainty until proven otherwise. So for as long as you don't feel anything, there is no need to try and prove it otherwise. So for example, I prayed my duha. I just been doing my house and stuff like that. I didn't feel anything at all coming out. It's no need to check before zuhur. I don't have to check, right? Because my origin is tahara. That is my certainty. So you check, but a lot of the church coming out, and I felt like a whole lot of things going on. Okay, you got to go and see what it is about. Right? What is it? Right. So then you just got to see what it is. But high kind of this is why the how come all these people how come all these people always have voodoo? How come I never have voodoo? So I don't know. Yeah, they all have wudu. Mashallah, traveling and so on, mashallah. So on the inner parts, what is deep into the privates, around the cervix, right, or from inside the womb, right? The cervix is the space between the womb and the canal, the cervix. So it goes from around there or from inside the womb, right? So, okay, so for the one that is not najis and it does not break wudu, is all end and no color or white, or is smell and small amount, usually small amount, right? And kind of like a sweat, right? So of this, it's all ends, meaning all these conditions are fulfilled, right? They're all fulfilled. They're all fulfilled conditions. As opposed to the one that is najis, it's all. So either it has a color. So the moment you see, and not white, I mean color meaning yellow or greenish, right? There's a color there basically, right? So either it has a color. Color means it's from the womb. You only see transparent and white. All white. Then it's probably Alhamdulillah. Then probably if it's probably the first group from the outer part. Your whole life you've been taking wudu. Alhamdulillah. Abba will say al-ilm nur. Like you're like enlightened, not najis. Your problems. You have wudu, mashallah. Or pungent. The one that is pungent in very distinct, very smelly smell. And probably for me, I know what it is. When I see it, I know it. I know it. Because you don't have to actually sniff it. Because like the first one, you sniff, you can smell the smell. It's like the second one, like just by it coming off you, you can smell it. Right. So some of them might get it, might not get it. Like for me, I get it. Like so it's very pungent. It tends to pass for me. Right. There's like a flash out. I think my boy does a flash out. So that's called from the womb. It's clear. It's clear. It's a lot. It's very fluid. It's smelly. So I think it's from the womb. Right. That's right. Or stretchy. So Haba will say it goes. If you hold it, it will stretch. It is the stretchy one. Yeah, a curdle is the chicken. Right. Stitching is called the popcorn. Yeah, so it's all. So the stretchy one is clear. It has to be clear. It's stretchy. It's lubricant happens during for Madi, right, when you're sexually aroused. Either or the color. Stretchy and the color. So if any of this it's stretchy. It's lubricant. It's like a lubricant. Yeah. No, no, not no, it's not that it spreads, but it's stretchy. And that you could yes, you can't pick it up like a curdle. And it tends to just like make your entire legs wet. It's the one that comes out, it feels like really this arousal fluid. It comes when you're aroused, it comes when you're ovulating. So it basically is a lubricant. It has the texture of, so how you describe it would be the uncooked egg white. Okay, we all keep using food. I try to not use food, but we keep using food, chicken, egg white. And so when you break the egg, right, the egg white is uncooked. Yes. That's called stretchy. It's lubricant. Yes, clear. It's clear. Najis. Yes. Najis. Because that comes from the inner part of the faraj, right? From the private parts, from inside. Right. So that's just because it falls under. So when we speak about it, it's between sweat and madi. The stretchy colors one is actually madi. Stretchy colors one is madi. Is arousal fluid. So whether or not you're aroused. So if you're aroused, it will come out. But in the cycle, in your ovulation, it comes. If on like day 1 or day 2 ovulation, there's almost never a time when you're not. Yeah, yeah, right? Yeah. So like in the sense that even when I'm making, I have in the middle of and my fear often is I'm not even going to get to Salah. Like I'm not going to get through my Salah without it coming out, yes. And I'm going to miss my Salah. If this carries on, do you take the ruling of Istibaha? Yes. I've just got to Istibaha. Yes, mashallah. So the question here is that, just for people on Zoom, they can't hear anyone around here because I have this thing on my thing. No. It's because they're not recorded. Right, but no, so I'll repeat the question. So the question is that, what if and this should also get it. There are parts in my cycle, right, whereby this lubricant fluid, right, because of ovulation, is like a never-ending thing. You just did istinja and you come out of the bathroom, Right, so then you fall under istihadah. Right, istihadah, not daimul hadas means someone who's continuously on a hadas. Right, daimul hadas is 4 types. Right, continuous gas, continuous urine incontinence, istihadah, and continuous discharge. So that is, so if you're finding yourself going through that, right, then you are on a continuous hadas, because it's really, you can't even expect when it's going to come. Right, so you could, whenever I'm on my ovulation, you can go Allah, you're doing a takbir, and the whole thing comes out. So on continuous hadas. Now you're going into the ruling of istibaha for salah. So when you do your wudu, and inshallah I'll go into the ruling of what you have to do when you are on a continuous hadath. Basically, your wudu is not going to be tahara. It's not tahara, right? But it is istibaha. And usually it's this patient for 1-2 days. It lasts 1-2 days. Alhamdulillah, ovulation is only like 24 hours, right? And then mashallah, it's not very long. So it's just that 2 days, you just got to be patient. But with regards to this, what I asked about, right? Some of the scholars here is about menstrual cup. Right, so I asked them like, if I were to use a menstrual cup, for me, I use a menstrual cup, right? Because the menstrual cup, you right into the right. So I asked them, if I use a menstrual cup, the cup holds the discharge, so nothing out on the outside, right? Can I do that and preserve my wudu? And the answer was yes. Oh, wow. The answer was yes, as long as I feel that it's about. So a doctor told me I should take some piece of cotton, so if you don't, kind of just feel that to hold it. Yeah. So it's not actual pad, but it's just there. That comes out. Cool. But putting a cotton at your privates, your wudu is still nullified. It comes out. Yeah. Yes, it exits. The menstrual cup is inside your body, to the point that if you take a tissue and you were to wipe, nothing is there. Literally nothing is there, because the cup catches everything in it. But also on condition that no part of the cup sticks out of you. Yeah, so unless there's a stem at the bottom of the cup, for me, I cut it. I actually cut it. How do you get it out? You just pull it out. Yeah, mashallah. So when I use it a lot for Umrah and Hajj. I don't go for I don't go for Hajj, but Umrah. Because Masjid Haram. Oh Allah. Yeah, about the wudu thing. Mashallah. So yeah. Ramadan, for like you want to do i'tikaf in the masjid, you put it in before you begin the fast. Yes. But you can't take it out. Yeah. As long as you're fasting, you gotta put it before you begin the fast. Yeah. The pee is from a different hole. Mashallah. Yeah, you do have a tree. You do have three holes. Yeah, it's not the pee. It's not the same. Bismillah. Biology. Mashallah. I think if you want to have i'tikaf and you want to like do tarawih, if you're in Tarim, you're doing like 3 tarawihs. Mashallah. Yeah, and I actually do it after Maghrib also. So if I don't do it in the day, I wasn't so sure at first what I could do. When I checked it, they and then fasting, but I used to do it once. Then I put it in my wudu. Yeah, so tarawih. Why do you have to do from Fajr? No, you can. So once you break a fast, you put the menstrual cup in. You hold here who are not married. It's scary. Yeah. Yes, you find it scary.
Out in your fast.
Then your fast nullifies because you put your finger in. Your fast nullifies because of the finger entering. Okay, so if you want this for the tarawih, this is okay. This is the whole point, right? Tarawih. Okay, now right. So basically, so when I put in the cup, right, it actually catches the fluids. Sometimes with regards to this stretchy one, right, it does not catch, right, because it's from the glands around the cervix. Sometimes it catches, sometimes it goes past it.
Sometimes it doesn't catch.
The stretchy one, right? Yeah, it doesn't catch it. It catches what's from the womb, yes, right, but sometimes the mazi goes past it. Right, because it's from the glands around the cervix. Yeah. Sometimes it catches, alhamdulillah. Sometimes you're like, I didn't catch them around. They come out. Let's just be aware of it. And abundance. So you see abundant meaning it makes your thighs wet. So if you experience discharge to that extent, whereby thighs are all wet of discharge, and that one is you say confirm it is from inside. Right? Because the outside glands don't produce a kind of fluid. Okay, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, it's clarity here. Naam. Right, so if unsure, then assume that it's from the outer parts. That's the default. If you're unsure, because for the najis one and the one that breaks the wudu, they have clear signs. They're very clear signs. So you look at your liner, like small amount, like, you're trying to figure out, is this thing? And there's color, and like smell. Is this called pungent? All these things, you're unsure. Right? What is your yaqeen? Certainty is tahara. So you go back to tahara. So you're unsure because the signs of it being najasa and of it being najis and breaks your wudu are clear signs. Color, very clear. Pungent, strong smell, right? Stretchy, clear. Right? I mean, it's a clear sign, like egg white. Abundant. These are all clear signs.
I'm trying to make a difference between small amount and abundance. So abundant is size wet. But small amount, say for example, it's on your liner.
Yeah, like
this.
Yeah.
Is that small amount?
Small amount. Small amount. Yeah. So your liner is able to hold it in a sense. Abundant, like for me, abundant, it literally trickles down my legs. But it does. If to that amount abundant. With madhi, like it will wet your entire underwear. Madhi. That's abundant. It makes the whole thing wet. And now okay, khalas, I'm on najasa. Mashallah. And someone were to ask, what if I'm like that and then I'm outside? So usually if you need to istinja, yes, you must istinja. Wiping with a tissue doesn't count, right? Because you don't fulfill the tissue conditions, 8 conditions of tissue. So you must do istinja, right? Find a place to do istinja. And if you don't have a spare underwear, right, then you pray without the underwear that has najasa on it. If it has gone onto the underwear, you pray without it. If really, you have nowhere to do it, is to do istinja, you're traveling on the go, this is going to stop by the side of the road and pray, and you just have nowhere to do istinja, right? Then you fall under someone who has najasa on them without choice, right? And you just pray and you do a qada later on when you can do it properly. Right? So you pray a prayer, but your prayer is deficient, right? And you do a qada later on. Right? If you really can't do an istinja, right? Yes. Yes, possible. No, not the ghusl, just istinja. With regards to ghusl, it's money, right? So money is sexual discharge. There will be a very distinct sexual high. So you won't miss it. You won't miss it. To the point if you had it in your sleep and you wake up, you will feel the palpitations or whatsoever that comes with it. So what brings you into janaba, into major hadas is very distinct. So you know that you're actually in right. So but if it's just like more and more fluids, your body's washing it out. Their body's washing it out. It's all najis. It's najis. So all you have to do is istinja. Istinja and wash it out. Right. So if you're unsure, then assume it's from the outer parts. As purity the default. And the default is purity. Right? And being sure of having one's wudu is stronger than being unsure if wudu is nullified. Right. So remember the principles of fiqh, alhamdulillah. We love fiqh in this way because fiqh gives you clarity. What you're sure about. I'm sure I did istinja. I'm sure I did wudu. I'm sure of this. But are you unsure whether I nullified my wudu? So you go on surety on what you are certain about. Right? So must I keep checking? Only if you felt something coming out of you or done specific activities. Right? So specific activities, for example, what would stimulate a sexual arousal? Like for example, that will be clear, right? And then secondly would be, and I'll speak about it, like about discharge from the womb. Like it comes out when you do a lot of physical carrying or walking, right? So if you carry heavy things, the womb actually pushes out discharge, right? So they're all specific activities, right? So you don't have to keep checking, right, unless certain things happen. And I'm going to go into a diagram. Alhamdulillah. Okay. And I knew the discharge thing would take the entire lesson. Right? Because it's just the biggest our whole life, right? It's revolving around
My favorite aspect of
discharge. MashaAllah. Okay, so it's falling out.
So I think it's best to have just the bones where I'm actually
Then check.
and if I check it falls under the swing.
Yes. Yes. Alhamdulillah.
I think this is good.
Okay, MashaAllah. Yeah, MashaAllah. Okay, so there are different types of discharge, right? So basically whatever I covered is enough, but just to make it bitofsi to open, right, what's coming out of me? What's coming out of me? So the inner price, right? Why did I put yellow? Oh yeah, correct. Right, so inner. I was thinking I wrote outer. No, inner, correct. Inner meaning inner. Okay, it goes all the way in. Could be white, it could be yellow. It's possible to be. And I know a lot of women who actually get yellow. And actually, if you go into the into the health of it, it's not healthy. If you're getting colored discharge, something's not right.
I thought it would be yellow, not white.
Yellow, yes. It should be white. Right? So a lot of women say to me that their discharge is always yellow. Right? I don't get that myself. My discharge is white, white or colorless. Right? Only when it's menses, then it begins to become rich. So if you're someone 24/7, you're doing just through the year, it's always yellow. I could get yourself checked. I saw one video online about a woman, she's a gynecologist, and she was showing different types of discharge and showing signs that you need to your womb, right, for some diseases, right? And one of it was that she was using your Masha, it's food. It's always food. And she was smearing it on different liners to show the color. MashaAllah, don't teach. So she said, this is my yogurt, right? And she was like, this color. MashaAllah, this is called my yogurt. Alhamdulillah, we got chicken fat, we got egg white, we have yogurt. MashaAllah.
Either or.
Yes.
Confusion is what if it has a color and is stretchy, so it's white and stretchy.
That is najis.
White and
Najis.
so that it's not an either or, it's possible and.
Yes. So when I say, so if any one of these things exist, so if all of them exist, khalas, it's najis. It's confirmed najis now. Okay, so the first one, like this najis, right? It's white or colorless, right, or yellow, right? This from the inner privates, right? So people tells you the different types of things that come out of you. This whole table, yes. Right. So all of what comes out of you, it falls under one of, right? All of what comes out of you. I said menses, of course, right? And you see how that. Basically, with regards to discharge, they fall under one of these five. Engine. Now, it's not moving. Why is it not moving? Allah. Let me just do this. Oh, I didn't know that it shows. Sometimes the projector sleeps. Good thing you pointed it out. I'm talking, you're like not saying. Okay, tamam. Right. So this will be very clear. Fiqh is clear. On true, right? It's just basically signs, right? Signs of what is najis, what's not najis. This table, right, shows you the different types of discharge that you experience. These discharges. So there's called the inner private discharge, right? That's from the inner. They call it ifrazat in Arabic, ifrazat, right? Then you have mazi, right? And then you have wadi, right? Wadi, and then you have outer private is called rutubatul farj, right? In Arabic, rutubatul farj. That means that the moisture of the privates. There's the outer privates. Then you have mani, right, which comes with orgasm. So money is clear. It's clear. All right. So let's go through each of them, and these are the traits that they have. Right. So in a sense, you can even like, oh, this is money. You can actually even name what comes out of you. Once you get very pro at it, you can name what it is. Okay, Bismillah. Sorry, my any Zoom keeps this one, it keeps cutting off. Okay, right. So in the private, like, so it has all these traits. So I would say the one that is the most apparent is a button, right? There's a apparent one, all the traits. So the watery one, because there is a watery one that is not najis. Right, this is watery, and it's like for me, like it can be as much as like urine in a sense. A lot. Right? It comes after menses. It washes out. Right. Here colorless somazi is I separated it from the ovulation one because right. Somazi is defined as shahwa, عند الشهوة. So when it's feeling aroused. So then عند الشهوة, they will produce this fluid. So madhi can happen anywhere in your cycle, as long as you are aroused. It can even happen when you're having menses. Right? So if you're aroused while having your menses, you will find this clear fluid flowing out. And it does not carry blood with it. And because it's not from the womb, it's from the cervix. So you can have a lot of clear fluid. Like, I finished my menses. No, you didn't finish your menses. There's still some more coming out. Right? It's just that you were aroused while it is possible. Don't go and bathe. Right? Wait for the mix to end. Inshallah. Right, so wadi is from inside the womb. It's colorless, fair amount, slight smell. The main thing about it is when it comes out. Right? So obviously the clue that you're having wadi is when you carry heavy things. Then your womb pushes out this fluid from inside, or you walk a lot. Right. So usually when you're walking, you don't even feel if anything comes out because you're walking. If you walk long distances, high chances your womb is pushing things out. Right. So for wadi, it is known usually by your activities. So if you have done any of these things, like carrying heavy things and walk long distances, then high chances you have wadi. So what is the one thing that maybe you might go by you? Right? So what will be your red light about it? Right? Is if you did carry something heavy, and heavy meaning like you feel your stomach being like like that. That's the meaning of heavy. Your back is not heavier. But yeah. Okay, so that in a sense, like it's like carrying a table. So things that when people are pregnant, they will say, don't do that because you will miscarry. Yeah.
Like that beyond what we normally want.
Yes.
Always like a certain amount. Lots of teams just regular.
Yeah, it's beyond what you usually do. So in a sense, it brings exhaustion. There's an exhaustion with your walking. Yes, exercise will probably bring out a lot of discharge from the womb. It's all from the womb, right? It's just in advice we do. So okay, smear question. Smear is what yogurt does. Sorry. But so when you put smear on a liner, you can't pick it up. There's no jaram. There is no like body to it. The white glue, you could pick it up, right? Smear, it goes, it smears. So you like, I can put it out, right? So probably that one is from the womb. It comes from the womb, right? That one. Okay, outer private is our only hope. They are wudu safe, the outer privates. It's colorless, small amounts, like smell, clumps, measurable clumps, right? And like Bismillah. So sorry, today the internet is really, mashallah. Allah, you all make dua lah, those who are online, make dua. Okay, so colorless, small amount is a distinct smell with regards to many. Allah. Right? Watery, right? With a sexual high, it comes in spits. Okay, so the distinct feature about many is sexual high. So there's a sexual high in your head, usually, and it comes out in Arabic, the fa, the fa, right? So it comes, you will not miss it. You will not miss it, right? When it comes, right? Because it is under orgasm, right? So when that happens, you are in major hadass, and you have to do your major bath. Okay, but usually for myself, I've never seen money by itself, because money usually is accompanied by madhi. So the sexual arousal first, then the money comes. Right? So unless someone gets money without madhi, Allahu alam, right? But for my own personal experience, it has never happened without madhi. Right? So usually that one of the ways of conceiving is to actually raise your hip. I put a pillow underneath you after in the course and raise your hip to have it come in into your womb. The more you stand, it comes out. Yeah. So high chances the next day that what you're experiencing is Mahdi. It's not even his fluid. It should come up within the first few hours of intercourse, usually. Right. Okay, Alhamdulillah, we're going to end our class. I'll put out the link for the quiz. And next week I'll go to the quiz. So basically, there are three ways in which you can figure out your discharge. The first way I give all the sifat, all the attributes. Second way I gave you a table, right? I'm just repeating myself basically. And the third way is a flowchart, right? So whichever works for you, right? So either you go by traits, by knowing what is coming out of you, or by going through a prayer. Okay, I want to pray. First question, must I go and check? Okay, so you ask yourself, have you done any physical activity, heavy physical activity, or sexual activity? Or did you feel any discharge coming out, right? So if the answer is, I've not done any of these things, okay, Bismillah, you have wudu. Don't whisper